The snacks were endless, and the drinks were just the right amount to keep them light-hearted and loose, with both of them teasing and challenging each other throughout every round. Every once in a while, their eyes would meet, the briefest exchange of something unspoken passing between them. It was all so easy, so comfortable. Jason found himself laughing more than he had in a while, his usual stoic exterior giving way to a carefree side he hadn't let show in ages. Ben's easy smile and playful demeanor were infectious, and before long the game didn't matter much at all. They were just enjoying the time spent together, the connection that seemed to grow with every shared glance, every laugh that followed a well-aimed joke. After a particularly competitive round, Ben leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms above his head. He looked over at Jason, his gaze shifting toward the hallway. "You know," Ben began, his voice casual but curious, "I've been wondering, what's your room like? You've been telling me how much you cleaned the place up tonight." Jason raised an eyebrow, taken aback by the question for a moment. It wasn't that he was uncomfortable with the idea, it was just a bit unexpected. Still, he shrugged with a smile, trying to keep it light. "You really want to see it?" Ben nodded, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Yeah, you've got me all curious now. Plus, I've been spending the whole night in the living room. I want to see where the magic happens." He added the last part with a teasing grin, his words playful, but there was something in his tone that suggested he wasn't just referring to the room itself. Jason chuckled, standing up and motioning toward the hallway. "All right, come on, but I warn you, it's probably not as exciting as you're imagining." Ben stood as well, following Jason down the hallway. Jason felt a little self-conscious, but he tried to keep his cool. He had cleaned, yes, but there was always that feeling of vulnerability when someone was about to see your private space. When they reached the door to Jason's room, he hesitated for a moment before opening it. The room was simple, clean, and neat. The bed was made, the furniture arranged just the way Jason liked it. The only decoration was a few framed photographs on the walls, ones that had meaning to him, a picture of his family, a photo from a hiking trip he'd taken years ago, and another from a distant vacation. Ben stepped inside, glancing around, taking it all in. Jason watched him closely, waiting for a reaction. "It's nice," Ben said, his voice soft but genuine. He ran a hand along the back of the chair near the desk. "Very you." Jason smiled, feeling oddly proud of the space, despite its simplicity. "Yeah, it's nothing fancy, but it's home." Ben looked back at him, his gaze lingering for a moment longer than expected. "I can see that. It feels comfortable, like it's got a good vibe." Jason nodded, walking towards the window to glance outside. "Yeah, I like it here. It's been a long time since I really felt settled, like I have a place that's just mine." Ben's voice was quieter when he spoke again, his tone more thoughtful. "I get that. It's good to have a place that feels like yours, like it's where you're supposed to be." Jason's gaze shifted to Ben, the unspoken meaning behind those words striking a chord deep inside him. There was a subtle shift in the air, a quiet understanding growing between them, something that wasn't just about the room, but about the connection they shared, something more personal. "So," Ben continued, breaking the brief silence, "this is where you unwind after a long day, huh?" Jason chuckled softly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, that, or I crash after a long workout. It's not glamorous, but it works for me." Ben grinned. "Well, it definitely suits you. Cozy and strong. I like it." Jason's heart skipped a beat at the compliment, and he smiled in return. "Glad you think so." The moment lingered between them, and for a second, neither of them spoke. The quiet, steady rhythm of their conversation and the connection between them felt natural and effortless, like they'd known each other far longer than just a few weeks. Ben turned toward the door, looking back over his shoulder at Jason. "Thanks for showing me. I'm sure it took a lot to get it this perfect," he teased, but there was warmth in his words. Jason laughed. "Well, I do have a reputation to uphold." As they stepped back into the living room, Jason leaned against the doorframe, watching Ben settle back onto the couch. There was something about the way Ben fit so naturally into his space that made Jason feel at ease. He hesitated for a moment, running a hand through his hair before speaking. "You know," Jason started, his voice a little quieter than usual, "I didn't just clean up for the sake of it." Ben looked up at him, raising an eyebrow. "Oh? Then why'd you go all out?" Jason smiled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, I guess I wanted things to be nice for you. Thought you might want to feel comfortable here, especially in my room, if you needed to, you know, relax or something." Ben tilted his head. His curiosity piqued. "You cleaned your room just for me?" There was a playful lilt in his voice, but his expression softened as he realized Jason's sincerity. Jason nodded, shrugging lightly, trying to play it off. "Yeah, I guess. Figured you'd want somewhere cozy. It's not much, but it's clean, and it's yours if you want it." Ben's smile grew, and he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees as he looked at Jason. "That's really thoughtful of you," he said warmly. "But you know, I'm already pretty comfy just being here with you." Jason felt a warmth spread through his chest at Ben's words, but he shrugged again, his voice teasing this time. "Well, offer still stands. If you change your mind and need a break from my competitive streak, the room's all yours." Ben laughed, shaking his head. "All right, good to know. But I think I'll stick around out here for now. I'm enjoying the company." Jason pushed off the doorframe and moved to sit beside him again, the tension from earlier in the night completely gone. "Suit yourself," he said with a grin. "But if you lose another game, don't say I didn't give you an escape route." Ben rolled his eyes, nudging Jason's arm with his elbow. "You wish. This next round is mine." Jason chuckled, reaching for the board game pieces. As they set up for another round, the air between them felt lighter, easier. Still, Jason couldn't help but glance toward the hallway now and then, wondering if Ben might take him up on his offer after all. The competitive streak faded, replaced by quiet conversation and comfortable silences as the two of them leaned back on the couch. Ben stretched out his legs, letting out a small groan. "Man, I didn't realize how much my feet were killing me until now," he said, wiggling his toes. "Been on them all day." Jason glanced down at Ben's feet, propped up on the edge of the coffee table. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Well, that's what happens when you're on the go all the time. Here, let me help you out." Before Ben could respond, Jason shifted forward, reaching down and tugging gently at one of Ben's shoes. Ben blinked, a little surprised. "Wait, what are you doing?" Jason shot him a grin. "Relax, just taking your shoes off. You look like you could use a break." Ben hesitated for a moment, then leaned back into the couch, his expression somewhere between amused and curious. "All right, if you insist." Jason slid Ben's first shoe off, followed by the second, setting them neatly to the side. He paused for a moment, his large hands wrapping around Ben's foot, and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Yeah, you're tense," Jason said, almost to himself. "Let's fix that." Ben raised an eyebrow, watching as Jason began to knead his fingers into the arch of his foot with practiced ease. "You're serious?" he asked, a mix of surprise and a bit of nervous laughter in his voice. Jason chuckled, his thumbs pressing firmly but carefully along Ben's sole. "What? You think these hands are just for lifting weights? I know a thing or two about helping someone relax." Ben's protest died on his lips as Jason hit just the right spot, sending a wave of relief through his foot. He let out a quiet groan, his head falling back against the couch. "Okay, fine. You're good at this," he admitted, his voice soft. Jason smirked, switching to the other foot, his movements steady and methodical. "Told you. You deserve it anyway. You've been running yourself ragged." Ben opened his eyes to look at Jason, who seemed completely focused on the task at hand. There was something oddly intimate about it. Not just the massage itself, but the care Jason was putting into it. Ben felt his chest tighten slightly, a mix of gratitude and something deeper stirring within him. "You don't have to do this, you know," Ben said softly, his voice losing some of its earlier playfulness. Jason glanced up, his eyes meeting Ben's. "I know," he replied simply, his tone warm but firm. "I want to."